Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Today's conversation is one I was really interested in having when I first connected with Phill. Not just because I love talking about training and performance and health. It's because I believe we, as a fire and rescue service community, are standing at a bit of a crossroads when it comes to our relationship with firefighter fitness. Too often we treat physical readiness like some kind of checkbox, just to tick it off once a year with a bleep test or a weigh-in. But we all know, deep down, that the minimum standard we expect in the UK Fire and Rescue Service doesn't reflect the real demands of this job when it matters the most. Doesn't reflect the weight of a real human casualty and how they move and behave. It doesn't reflect the strain of a difficult BA wear on a summer's day, or the climb of a high-rise staircase with the hose over your shoulder and your heart pounding through your chest. And if we're being honest, we've created a culture where being just fit enough is accepted, sometimes even celebrated. But what if that mindset is quietly putting our crews at risk? What if just enough isn't enough anymore? That's why I wanted to sit down and speak with Phill Matthews. So Phill isn't just a firefighter. He is someone who has walked the path of transformation himself. He's lost the weight, he's rebuilt his body, stepped onto a bodybuilding stage, and then turned his passion into an actual purpose. He's now coaching both serving and especially aspiring firefighters, not just to help them pass fitness tests, but to prepare them for the realities of this career. His kind of approach blends science, discipline, psychology, but it's not just about how strong you are, really. It's how well you stick to the plan when motivation fades. In our conversation today, we dive deep into what fitness really means in our line of work. We talk about the outdated standards, the science of VO2 max test and casualty drags, and why ultra runners outperformed others in high-rise simulations. We unpack the difference between looking fit and being fit, and the mental toll social media especially, self-comparison, public scrutiny can take on people trying to better themselves, which is crazy because Phill also has a really big following. He's growing a big following on his social media platforms, and he's there to try and do a lot of positivity with it. We also explore the role of coaching, identity, self-belief, and the cultural shift away from boozy watch nights out to more health-focused, long-game approach to our career longevity. This isn't just a chat about squats and macros though, so don't worry, we're not just going to bromance it through this next hour or so. It's a call to rethink what we expect from ourselves and each other. Whether you're already on the job or dreaming of putting on the tunic one day yourself, this episode is an invitation to raise the bar. Not just because anyone told you to, but because the job, the public, and your future self deserve it. I'll see you on the other side. So what made you want to get into coaching?
It's actually really interesting. So I kind of feel like I fell into it by accident. I was asked to facilitate the warm-up for the fire service I work for as the fire service fitness advisor. And it just shocked me the amount of applicants that would turn up with no prior preparation physically. I feel like a lot of them turned up without any clue what the fitness requirements were, what the tests were. And I just remember there was always one girl that stands out in my mind. She did one of the fitness tests, and halfway through, she turned around to one of the watch managers and said, "Well, that's hard." And I just thought, like, have you not been to a have a go day? Have you not researched this? And it just dawned on me that maybe I have a skill as a personal trainer that I can help people achieve the same job that I love. So my dream job, I can help them achieve their dream job. And it just kind of snowballed from there.
I'm surprised there's not more people do. I mean, a lot of people do it, as in first responder style. I sort of dabbed my toe in it a little bit a very, very long time ago. I did all the coaching thing for probably the best part of a decade in a couple of gyms and all that sort of stuff. There's some massive ones in the States. Do you know Jared Johnson? Have you seen Jared's work?
No, I don't recognize the name.
I'm going to introduce you to Jared.
His brand?
Jared Johnson he's done loads of firefighter challenge competitions in the US. He's won the freaking Lion's Den sub 1 minute, whatever it goddamn is. I've had him on the podcast a few times. I've also had his dad on the podcast. And Jared's got hundreds of gold medals in these firefighter challenge competitions out there. And everything seems a little bit bigger and more, a bit more patriotic, a bit more chest beaty and all that sort of stuff in the States, which is great. In the UK, we're a little bit different, aren't we? We're not as chest beaty. We don't actually like supporting each other very much sometimes, which really frustrates me. Like, how did you? So you'd had this revelation that you're like, I think there's maybe a bit of a skill set here. People obviously want to get into it, but a lot of people dare not ask, and then they're turning up and they're not ready for it. There's still a big leap between that and then actually starting to do it, putting yourself out there. How long had you been in the service before you started actually doing like fighting firefighters?
Probably the idea came about 3 years in.
Okay.
It was at that point that I kind of realised, and I think it was the leap from the idea to actual coaching, so one-on-one online coaching, was firstly I wanted like a very easy purchasable program that people could literally click on program and it will basically get them from where they are ready to join the fire service. And then I was getting requests for like personalized training programs, and then people wanted a little bit of help with meal plans and nutrition. It just snowballed from there. And then what originally started as just this one idea, this one program, originally was the Firefighter ebook to help people, just got bigger and bigger and turned into sort of one-to-one online coaching that I do today.
How do you sort of maintain the fulfillment and the motivation for it? Because I found when I was doing the online coaching stuff, it's very, very difficult. You have to pour a lot of yourself into it. And because it's virtual, I mean, there's a pro and con to it. James Smith, speaks very, very passionately about when he started the academy, and he went from doing stuff in the gym and maxing out his time there and the scalability element of it. But he's also spoken very transparently about how it's a whole different kind of job. Putting yourself out there, engaging with people a lot more when there's no real, social media sometimes is like talking into the void, because until somebody comments, posts, writes back, whatever it might be, you're just on broadcast. It's really weird. How did you get over putting yourself out there and actually doing some of the stuff on social media? Because 3 years isn't long being in the job as well. Did you have any kind of, who do you think you are, get time under your belt, all of this ridiculous stuff that we hear sometimes?
I think, yeah, that's some of it. Like back then, I would have admitted that I've been in the fire service for 3 years before putting myself out there. Probably
Why?
not. A lot with social media, and it's really because there's a big stigma. There's a big stigma around promotions, around like you're not knowledgeable because you've just 3 years.
No, you're right. I'm not. My face pulling is not because I'm disagreeing with you, but I don't know why we have such a. That's still a thing. You're right. That is still a thing, and it really annoys me because experience doesn't always. Time doesn't always equal experience. Well, it equals experience, but it doesn't always equal knowledge or wisdom. And just because you've done something for a long time doesn't actually mean you're good at it either. And I'm not for 1 second saying I'm good or not good at firefighting. I've certainly had a lot of experience around a lot of services, around a lot of jobs, operations, different levels of promotions and all that sort of jazz. But I know people who have been in the job for 10, 15 years longer than me and have really had very narrow experience of their career. So, and equally, we could say the same about fitness, couldn't we? Like the amount of people who have been doing something for a very, very long time, but have never really got any guidance or support on it, and it's just been garbage training that they've been doing for years and years on end, and then have the audacity to wonder why they're not making any progress. I think there's a lot of people who feel that way perhaps about their careers. This episode is brought to you in partnership with Godiva Limited. Godiva is one of the world's leading providers of specialist equipment for emergency services market. Godiva produces a comprehensive range of fire pumps, including vehicle-mounted, portable, and their cutting-edge integrated total water flow control system, SAMFlows. I've been using Godiva my entire career as a reliable pump on the fire ground. It is such a crucial element of a successful firefighting team that you want to empower your crews with the very best, reliable, quality product. Reach out to our partners by checking the notes in the podcast. Now back to the show.
Massively. Like, we've all seen it on station where someone comes into the service, they've not been in very long, and they get promoted. And the instant conversation is how long they've been in. It's never a conversation of how much experience they have or what jobs they've been to or what they bring to the party. The instant communication is around how long they've been in, which it just seems to be where we in the fire service.
So you decided to start it. I was looking, total transparency, I was looking on your Instagram earlier today when I was prepping for our conversation. Yeah. You set it up in January of 23. You didn't post till 7 months later.
Yeah, so I had a real issue there. So I I came up with the idea
Might
for
have been
it.
nothing, but I thought it might make for a funny story. I didn't know what the crack was.
Yeah, it does. So the fitness test that I undertook were in October, and I came up with this idea, and I wanted the program to be ready first. So came up with it. I had the program ready, and I remember going to my station manager with it. And being, look, I've got this incredible idea. Showed him it, and straight away he was like, "Love it." He's like, "However, the
Oh,
service are
really?
not going to
Okay.
like it. You are not going to be allowed to do this." So then I went through all the legal team and
Fair play to them for actually giving
permission.
you a bit of support, though, because I thought you were going to say the first reaction was ram it, like discouraging you. Fair play to whoever that station manager was that at least acknowledged that there is a need for that. But yeah, sorry, I interrupted you. There's a real difficulty around putting ourselves out there and how we align with our organizer. I think this is something that's very uniquely weird about the fire service, because I don't think police and ambulance have it as difficult as we do in terms of like our organizations are proud of us, but they kind of half the time don't want us to say that we work for them on social media. You and I, neither of us never say where we're from on social media. I don't say the service that I work for or anything like that. Sometimes that's a little bit sad though, that we have that kind of relationship with them.
Yeah, massively. Like one of the big things that is part of my secondary contract or second employment agreement is that I'm not allowed to reveal who I work for. So I always get messages. One of the first messages you always get is, "Oh, what service you in?" And I always feel so
Feel
evasive
like a
having to
dick.
be like,
Yeah.
I can't tell you. I'm not allowed to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have that conversation, but it's the way it is. Now, if that's going to allow me to carry on helping people and doing what I'm doing, then
Mm-hmm.
so be it. I'm willing to accept that.
So when you first started setting it up, you said you went through the process of trying to get that approval from your service, didn't quite get their kind of buy-in, but still felt like this was something that you really wanted to get your teeth into. What was the first sort of people that you started working with on it?
Well, initially, it was just aspiring firefighters. So it was just trying to help them get into the service. Now, I was very lucky that when I did finally launch it, which I think was like June or July around that year, because of the content I was putting out, a lot of people picked it up very quickly. So initially, there was quite a big uptake of the program, and then very quickly I started to see the results and helping people get in or helping them improve their fitness. So initially, it was just aspiring firefighters, and that was all.
So what do you think were some of the common challenges that people were looking for you to help them with in terms of the fitness tests and stuff like that? Because I know you've done a lot of research around the different sort of fitness testings that we have around the world versus some of the stuff, because you'll also coach people applying for a whole bunch of different services and organizations. Like, what's some of the common challenges that people bring to you when they're preparing for testing in the fire service?
One of the biggest challenges is just knowing how to
Okay.
prepare. So translating sort of, you see the test online, all the fire services have what their tests are, but it's then knowing what to do inside the gym to prepare for that.
Okay.
So a lot of it was using my skills to be able to say, well, this is relevant. This is a similar movement pattern. Like equipment carry, we need to be looking at farmers carries. We need to be looking at chest high carries where you're carrying the hose. Like casualty evacuation, we need to be looking at deadlifts and sled pulls and things like that. And it was sort of providing that knowledge and breaking it down for them that this is what the test requires. So therefore, this is what we're going to work on. But I'd say the biggest challenges people face are to be the bleep test, the equipment carry, the ladder lift, and a lot of the time it's actually the chest to treadmill walk test.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very strange one because it
Yeah.
doesn't really correlate into the job. Do you know the background around how these testings were came up with things like the chest to step test and the walking test and the VO2 max and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so I have
Mm-hmm.
listened to some of your previous podcasts. I've also looked at the study. I think it was like 2009, was it, Bath University? So I understand it now. Very, I find it very hard to
Don't worry
have a
about that.
conversation about this because I feel like there's a lot cleverer people than me, a lot more scientific, and
I happily argue with it. I don't think they're a good test. I personally, that's my words, not yours. I don't think they're a very good reflection of what's expected of a firefighter on the job at all. I think the fireground fitness test is the closest you're going to get. I think that's a useful one for people to do. But chest to step test, the treadmill test, I don't think they have a place these days. But even when we're doing a lot of our pre-entry selection tests, I think we were speaking before about the weights of dummies that people are tested to and things like that. It's embarrassing. Most places around the UK, I think it's 55 kilos that they do their pre-entry selection test to. What do you think we should be requiring of firefighters?
I think the casualty evacuation is a massive one that's a lot lower than it should be. So you look at countries like New Zealand and Australia, 90 kilo dummies, and they're doing it with a BA set on the back. Now, this is so much more realistic than what we do. Now, I obviously understand that the NFCC base this on previous or historic numbers in terms of average weight, but surely that should be updated by now. If we're recognising that it's updated information.
The entire UK's waistline is growing.
Yeah.
55 kilos, what is that? That's under 10 stone. That's about 9 stone, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a large child in the UK now. That's not an adult, really. And any adult that does weigh 9 stone is not really getting stuck in a fire. They'll get themselves out. It's people that are morbidly obese, that have physical disabilities, that are, just not mobile. They're the sort of people that we know. And also elderly that are a little bit overweight, in their 50s, 60s, 70s. They're the sort of people that are going to get stuck in these fires. Not 50 kilo kids.
I actually had a one-to-one client message me a few months ago, and he said that he had to get a 25 stone man out of a fire. And he said, if it was for your help, there's no way he would have done it. There's not a chance he would have got that person out. Obviously, we're talking about extremes here. But I even thought, would I be able to get...
It's an extreme job, though. We would never write down on an incident debrief that we failed to rescue the casualty because the firefighter wasn't fit enough. We're not going to have the audacity to write that down because we already hold people to such a low standard. And it's one of my favourite quotes, John McDonough's one, where, firefighters will rise to a level of mediocrity that avoids further scrutiny. And we'll raise ourselves to the very, very low standard that we're held to, certainly in our physical testing, and most will go no further. But even they know that is not going to be... I always say to people, I'm not that bothered if you can rescue the public or not. I always just say this to recruits. It'd be nice if you can. Get it in the paper, get a live rescue. Fantastic thing to have on your career resume, on your CV. But if I go down in there and you're wearing with me and you can't get me out, my missus and my daughter are going to be really, really pissed.
Yep.
They're going to be so upset. They're going to be distraught that my fellow firefighter, the person I went in there with, there's a reason we go in pairs, because in theory, you're going to get me out if something goes wrong, and you can't get me out. What is the point then? What is the point? And this is, if we say we're not going to train to those weight levels, then the public should be aware of that. The public should be aware, and we say, look, if you weigh more than this, it's your own risk you're taking, because we're not actually training to come and save you. And I just think, I know I'm being slightly, sort of salacious and maybe a little bit facetious about it, but it's like, it's stupid that we don't test people to a higher level. Now, I get the manual handling elements to it, and I get the, the safety requirements of it and all that sort of stuff. I'm not against people using strops. I'm not against people using lifting devices and working in pairs and all that sort of stuff. What does frustrate me is these arbitrary rules that don't marry up when they come into conflict with reality.
Massively. There's a real discrepancy between that. So we can be expected to pull someone out of fire, but we can't be expected to lift over a 55 kg dummy. Now, like you said, a firefighter goes down, you put an extra 20 kilos on them worth of kit. If you think about an average male, you're probably then talking about 105 kilos. Well, that's a lot of weight to be dragging out of a building. And there is always that argument that, well, you always have 2 firefighters. Yeah, but you'll only get 1 firefighter through a door at a time with a casualty.
Yeah.
You're not going to get 2 firefighters side by side, one under each arm, dragging someone out. And it's a real difficulty. The problem is, because we have this paper on minimum standards, that minimum standard, as you say, just becomes the standard. It's not a minimum standard, it's the standard, unfortunately. And I'd really like to see fire services encouraging training above and beyond those minimum standards, but they won't.
When you're working with people, obviously we talk a lot about the physical elements of it. Do you ever do much work into the psychology of things? Because when I used to do a lot of coaching with people, I was just saying anything physical that I'm going to do with you, if we don't back it up with a change of your blueprint, a change of your mental model, the world, the sort of story you're telling yourself without getting too Tony Robbins whimsical. Like, if we don't change that, then anything we're going to do is just a little bit of a trick. I remember someone saying to me a few weeks ago that the fish rots from the head. And I went, oh, that's so good. Because your body is exactly, it's a physical manifestation of the thoughts you're probably telling yourself and the standards you're holding yourself to and the habits that you have on a day-to-day life. Like, what percentage, if you had to put your finger on it, would you say is physical versus mental in terms of the work that you do with people?
That is a hard question. I'd say it is massively mental and psychological, because people have barriers, people have habits that they've had for so long, and they have automatic behaviours that they'll be procrastinating, they'll be sat on the sofa, they'll be craving food because they're bored, and they'll get up and automatically do it. So it's trying to implement behaviour change, or what I call like a circuit breaker. So trying to disrupt that pattern of behaviour. But you have to get the buy-in from them. If you don't have a buy-in from someone, you're trying to implement a training program or a meal plan, you'll never get them anywhere, because they have to believe, one, they can do it, and two, it's the right thing to do.
How much of it do you think is, there's the old statement around like motivation doesn't work, and what do you do when motivation doesn't show up? And there's lots of, we could back and forth some Instagram quote porn for hours, I'm sure. But you used to be pretty overweight, it's probably fair to say. You've shared some of this online, you've shared some photos of yourself and things like that. I often think that people, and in my personal experience with clients many, many, many years ago, they'll usually do more to avoid pain than they will do to get pleasure. Like, they know they're not stupid. They know the thing they should do, even if they're a little bit stupid. They're not moronic. The dietary world has been rammed down their throat, if you excuse the pun, long enough that they know what's good and what's not good for them. But it's not until they see themselves either on a set of scales, a photo at a birthday party, they see something, or a partner leaves them and says, Phil, you just need to sort your shit out. You're a bit of a waste of space. I see myself with someone who actually holds themselves to a better standard than you do. Fucking hell, that sort of stuff really hits. And then people make a massive life change. Or a loved one passes. My dad was a fat mess and he ate himself into the grave. Or my mum was a smoker and then she, sometimes people, or I've found out most often people will do more to avoid pain. So like, what was the trigger for you? Because you've spoken before about how you've done sort of a transformation yourself. What was the trigger for that?
For me, it was that picture that I've shared on social media. It was me in the sea on holiday, and I wasn't even aware that's what I looked like. I had no clue. Like, I was a little bit heavier. I thought I was sort of building a little bit of muscle, and I saw.
How old would you have been then?
Like 19, 20, so fairly young. So we're talking about sort of 10 years ago. And I just remember seeing that photo and horrified. That's not what I saw in the mirror.
What did you think you saw?
Someone who was young, fit, healthy, building muscle, going to the gym, strong. And then I saw that. I saw the reality. I saw what I actually looked like, and I was just blown away. And you're very much right that the pain of seeing that and never wanting to look like that again was enough of a change for me to lose 15 kilos in 12 weeks, because I never wanted to look like that again. And never ever.
Why? What do you think looking like that said about you? And now we're getting a little bit personal here, not necessarily, well, certainly for yourself, but that's kind of assumed when you come on to talk about, on a podcast. But it can be very, very personal for other people. Because also, I have a big thing about being an instrument, not an ornament. And I've had elements of challenges with thinking about the way I look in the past versus actually being functional. So talk to me first about what it means to look that way and what you thought of yourself when you looked that way. And then help me understand the element of being an instrument rather than an ornament. And that's not throwing salt at bodybuilders, but there is people in the fire service, and I've been guilty of it for a brief period of time, where it's just like, oh, you look A, B, C, X, Y, Z, but it's not useful. Like, some bodybuilders were blowing out their ass, running up 3 flights of stairs. So, like, I know there's a lot in there. There's probably several questions, but try and unpick some of that if you can.
Yeah, well, you talking about sort of bodybuilders that look in a certain way but not being functional in the job, but that was me when I joined my recruits course.
Oh, really?
Like I was 105 kilos at that point, and I was blowing out my ass all the time. I was chafing, my legs were chafing because they're always rubbing together. I was sweating, I was always out of breath. And on your recruits course, I need to run everywhere, as I'm sure most
Yeah,
recruits course do. And
yeah.
oh my god, my shins were bad because my body just wasn't able to handle the impact or the weight that I was carrying adding on
Mhm.
fire. So at that time, yes, I was a ornament, not an instrument, and that was a real revelation for me that I needed to make a change. There was no way I could continue doing that job at 105 kilos, especially for my frame. So
Mm-hmm.
that was again another kicking point for
Talk
me.
to me about the way you said you looked. Like when you're working with people now, I mean, it's probably not a very good customer centric approach to say, Phil, come on, brother, you look like shit. You're embarrassing. You know, I saw that picture of you in the sea. I saw the person with a harpoon behind you. You know, we need to sort this out, brother. It's not good. Like, people probably know the way that they look and the way that they. Do you think it's more important the way you look or the way you feel? This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Gore-Tex Professional Fabrics. Now, we all know the working environment of a firefighter is filled with challenges. We face serious risks on the job, such as heat exhaustion, burns, physical and mental stress, and we frequently come into contact with high levels of toxic chemicals. Now, I have been wearing Gore-Tex for nearly 2 decades on the front line, working in hostile environments, tackling challenging incidents from firefighting to water incidents and in urban search and rescue environments. Gore-Tex have a well-earned reputation for protecting professionals in the fire and emergency services through their family of highly innovative, waterproof, breathable moisture barriers that exceeds global performance standards and are trusted worldwide. Gore-Tex, going further together.
The way you feel massively. The two come hand in hand. You improve how you look, and automatically you tend to improve how you feel. For me, it has to be the way you feel because the way you feel just changes your complete outlook on life. If someone can improve their confidence, they'll enjoy their summer holidays more, they'll go to events more, they'll put themselves out to meet other people. Whereas if you're uncomfortable and unconfident, you kind of hide in your shell and you don't get to enjoy life as much. And that for me is massive. And one of my favorite things to do is not only improve how someone looks, but their confidence as a byproduct of that.
I always talk of it as being like a domino habit. So what I mean by that is, someone said to me ages ago when I was going through addiction that you can act your way into a new way of feeling, but you can't feel your way into a new way of acting. Like, you can overthink trying to outthink this problem, but if you just start taking action against it, even if it's like feels wrong to do it, if it's like, you know, get up, try and make an effort, try and change your state. Tony Robbins talks a lot about changing state. You know, he talks about priming and things like this. And people who don't know Tony Robbins, they might go and find him on YouTube, and it's a bit woo-woo American stuff, but a lot of the shit works. And I've been to a bunch of his stuff, and it is, you know, there is a lot of useful stuff that you can take from that. You can act your way into a new way of feeling. And the point I make about domino habits is, would you tip this one, like you've just alluded to, the personal confidence that you get from it, how that confidence makes you show up in the world, how the way you show up in the world helps you interact with other people, how the way you interact with other people obviously has a tremendous influence on the way they interact with you, and you build rapport and you get more opportunities. And that's what I'm saying about that sort of domino effect. It really is a sort of trigger point, isn't it, for people's ability to change their lives, rather than just, this is my frustration when people look at it solely as an aesthetics thing. I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I just think your life would be a lot better if you got involved in some sort of physical habit. And that doesn't mean, bro, can you squat 200? It doesn't mean that. It means, you know, walking your dog. It means, you know, going on your bike. It means picking up a habit of playing badminton every Saturday with your next door neighbour. You know, it means joining the lads outside for a bit of five-a-side at the end of shift before handover. Do you know what I mean? Whatever that looks like for you, there's just so much more that you can get from it other than just, well, actually, I think I look all right, so I don't need to do it. I'm like, it ain't just about that.
Instantly. And it's like you say, like, it's confidence to go in the gym with other people around you, or one of the lads says to you station, shall we go for a run? And you go, well, actually, yeah, let's go for a run. And some of that's confidence, but also a big part of that is fitness as well. So they have to go hand in hand.
I was looking at some of the stuff that you'd shared online before we came on to talk today, and it did keep circling me back to this element of like our ability to get over ourselves, and how the success that you've built with your clients and your business and all this sort of stuff must be difficult to continue to do it. And I don't know why I'm saying it, because I have a similar things at times with the podcast, like continuing to show up, put yourself out there when sometimes you feel like a bit of a dick. You know, it feels hard to show up and do the thing time and time again. We spoke before about the criticism that you'll get from it and whether or not it will be worth it. Yeah. I think it was Aristotle that said, you know, if you want to avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, and be nothing. Like, talk to me a little bit around, because you've grown a really strong followership. But I've also heard people talk about followerships like Monopoly money. It only matters if you play Monopoly. But like, you have uniquely been able to transfer that into an actual source of income, which is fantastic. Because sometimes you do see some big followerships and you go, is that person just got a big followership because somebody just wants to get in their pants? But like for you, you're offering an actual product. All of yours is built around fitness. Whereas some of the ones, even if they're firefighter ones, you tilt your head and you go, is this dude just trying to get some, or a girl? Sometimes you'll be like, how much of this is inspiring and how much of this is a little bit, do you know what I mean? How do you deal with that criticism and those, how much of it do you think just comes from haters? Like there's a frustration that you have the audacity to do what you're doing rather than just stay in your box. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a really public way to do a business.
It's interesting. It comes back to what you said earlier, the comparison between the Americans and British and how we do things. That there's a real contrast between the interaction I get on Facebook. I get a lot of negativity on Facebook. I get a lot of criticism on there. It massively, really, like there's two different worlds. If you compare my Instagram comments to my Facebook comments, and I remember seeing
we've got a Facebook account. I don't fucking use it. Facebook is like Janice going, have you seen who's parked at number 36? You know, have you seen who left their bins out last week? Or it's someone going, Granddad, I miss you today. If Granddad died 10 years ago. Do you know what I mean? Granddad ain't on Facebook. Or it's going, little Johnny's first day at school today. I'm like, little Johnny ain't on Facebook. Why are you right? Facebook's just horseshit. I can't use it. Well, we've got an account and we use an automating software that posts things out onto all the accounts. But I've only been looking at your stuff on Instagram. So sorry, I interrupted you. But you say there's like two different worlds out there.
Massively. And I feel like it must be with the audience on the two platforms. That we obviously got one audience on Instagram that's a lot more receptive and understanding and supportive, and then you've got the complete opposite on Facebook. And it must be, like I say, something to be do with the people that use it. But
is it the age bracket? I think it's an older population on Facebook, isn't it?
I think it is, and I think a lot of it is that there is still this misunderstanding about social media and around you fire kit as some of it might be seen, or doing the workouts and things like that. And I think because that older generation don't understand social media and don't understand what I'm trying to achieve and how I'm trying to help people, I think it just comes from that lack of understanding, really.
What have you learned over the time that you've done it? About yourself and your communication style and perhaps your level of resiliency. But I also saw that you yourself have done some coaching. You know, Lewis Potts, as an example, you know, you've been on some coaching programs and you've done some work with people. Like, help me understand, and also perhaps for other people that are trying to, you know, aspire to do the same sort of things that you're not trying to ask you to give the game away or anything like that. But also, people couldn't replicate what you do. Not because you're uniquely special, but because they couldn't do you, if you know what I mean. Like, I think about this with the podcast sometimes. People go, oh, someone else. I was like, no one else could do it. They could do their own one, and it might even be better. But like, they're not going to do your thing. Do you know what I mean? That's the irony that people need to remember, is that if you lean more into your own authenticity, it's so incredibly less likely you'll ever get someone else that's better at it than you are, because no one else can do you. But talk to me about sort of your evolution of coaching, your evolution of going through different ways of communicating yourself as a business owner, and perhaps some of the stuff you've learned over the last 2 or 3 years since things have just continued to like change gears for you.
One of the biggest things I realised is that you obviously have to communicate with different people in different ways, and a lot of it, like we said earlier, comes down to that sort of cognitive behaviour theory, and trying to get people to change the way they understand or their outlooks or their goal setting. And that's something that Lewis Potts helped me massively with. That he's got a course called the Adherence to Fire, and it's about sort of getting a little bit more buy-in from clients or knowing what to do when they're struggling. So coaching for me is very much way more than just giving someone a program, giving someone a meal plan and saying, here, this is what you're doing. About getting them to come to the right decisions themselves and understanding why they're doing certain things. Because if you just give them a meal plan, that's just instructing. You're not coaching, you're not getting this out of them. And a lot of it comes from that and trying to be the best coach possible to therefore help people as much as possible.
I love that. Can I ask you a very personal question? Do you have a partner?
I do, yeah. Married, have a wife.
Fantastic. Congratulations. I didn't want to ask that and I don't want to make any assumptions. Talk to me about how your partner deals with all of these elements. I imagine she's tremendously supportive of it, which is epic and that's essential. But like, help me understand and give people an insight into how much of this is a team effort. And I'm not saying it is she sat there writing programs. I'm saying like, how important is it to have people in your environment on board with the direction that you're going on? Because for some people, they'll have an idea of something like this, but they won't have their inner circle won't be on board. And sometimes your biggest haters can be those closest to you, because as they see you trying to change, they see you trying to make a difference, trying to aspire towards your goals. Sometimes it can act like a big shining light on the fact that maybe they're not working on their thing, and they can so weird. But I've seen it myself firsthand. Like some people can start to dislike you going for your goals. Like, give us an insight if you can. And I'm not trying to bring your partner out into the public sphere or anything like that. But as to the extent that you feel comfortable to, how have you two navigated that together, and how do you make that work? Because you do this on top of your real job. It's a massive commitment.
My wife's support has been invaluable to me. I would say she's been my biggest support always, and especially when even probably times when I haven't believed myself fully, she would have. And like you say, when you've got friends around you who don't understand what you're trying to achieve, or they don't quite get it, or they're not quite supportive, and to have her support is just so important, because it's just having that understanding and that confidence and having to bounce ideas off. And when you are feeling low, when you don't feel like, exactly. When you don't feel like maybe this isn't for me, maybe I'm not doing this right, it's having someone in your corner saying, no, you can do this. Look at what you've achieved so far. Like, carry on. That carried on support is so important to me.
So talk to me about the way that you two communicate with each other as well, because I remember reading again the other day, one of my favorite ones, it's on the wall in the bedroom, is psychology is more contagious than the flu. Be careful who is around you, be careful who's infecting you. Like, for people that you work with when they're trying to make a change in their life, again, it can have a big thing to do with the people that are around them, because if you're working with a female firefighter there, or a female aspiring firefighter as an example, they're trying to get themselves in shape, they're trying to work on their fitness testing, and their partner, let's say it's a guy, it's a fat slob, and they both have their takeaways on a Friday, and they both socialize around their mate's house on a Tuesdays and get smashed, and all of these elements of it. How, they say if you can't change the people you're around, you've got to change the people you're around. I think that's true. It's hard because when you're trying to evolve, sometimes you're going to have to outgrow people. When I say outgrow them, it doesn't mean you're better than them, but it does mean that you've just outgrown them. It's like if me and Phil are heading north, but your interpretation of north finishes at Glasgow or wherever, and mine doesn't finish until we get to the goddamn North Pole. People are always growing. People are always changing.
Yeah.
How much of putting ourselves around the right people do you think is a factor within this?
Massively important. I think it's so important in literally anything you do, whether that's trying to better your physique, whether that's trying to better your fitness, or even just maybe your career. Just having someone around you and supporting you and wanting to move in the right direction is so invaluable. Like, if you surround yourself with people who don't ever want to go anywhere or have no aspirations, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with just wanting and being comfortable. You end up reverting back to that same level. You become the same people, I think. And you need that encouragement, you need that drive, and you need someone around you to support you when that drive sort of fades away a little bit.
How does that become a two-way street for you and your partner? Like, do you have goals together? Do you have family goals? Do you have partnership goals? Do you have financial goals? Do you have any personal goals yourself? Do you have stuff that you're working on? Because another thing about working with so many clients, and it's one of the reasons I sold the gyms that I had, I realized I wasn't working on any of my stuff anymore. I was so busy helping other people with their goals.
Yeah.
I wasn't getting shit done.
It's really hard when you are so busy, you end up stop prioritizing yourself. So one of the things I've certainly noticed with myself, probably with the time I spend with my wife over the last sort of 9 months as well, is that I've started prioritizing other things to sort of bring that back a little bit and start prioritizing my fitness again, physique, and my free time and the time I spend with my wife. And if you don't prioritize it, you end up losing yourself in the whole process, and then it's probably not worth it. And then that's when you start to repeat it and potentially self-charge, and that's not a good route to go down. So it's all about finding that balance, isn't it? As you probably know, running the podcast.
Yes. Podcaster, your business. The thing about any kind of your own personal business, that I've had many of them. I've had a cleaning business, a pizza business. I've had 2 gyms. I've had a caravan rental business. I've had blood, sweat and tires, boot camp park style business. Obviously the personal training, the coaching businesses. You never fill that cup up. The thing with your own business is never finished. Even as you're sat here now, you might be thinking of the 17 hours worth of work that you could be doing, of the program that you haven't written, of the course that you wanted to run, of the getaway, platinum package that you wanted to do with clients and go away to Tenerife and be able to do this for all of your gold standard clients. There's so much stuff you could be doing. Never ending. Yeah. How do you make yourself be where your feet are? Because like you say, you can't pour from an empty cup. And how do you manage to stay present for the people around you?
That has been probably one of my biggest struggles over the past year, especially sort of
because they'll only put up with it for so long.
Oh yeah, massively. Again, I have to say, I'm massively.
And so they should as well. If you're not putting them first, they should fuck you off.
Yeah, and I have to say, my wife's support over the last 12 months has been incredible, because one of the biggest struggles I've found is sort of running an online business. The majority is done through your phone, so you're suddenly reachable 24 hours a day. If you spend the majority of the day on your phone running a business, it becomes very hard to put that phone down at 6 o'clock, turn off your notifications. So for me, it's been very much about sort of setting personal barriers and having to have set times where I'm like, right, I won't reply to messages after this point, or if I'm going to the gym, I'll turn my phone off. Just ensuring that I can be present, because otherwise you're picking up your phones mid-conversation. My wife knows firsthand.
You ever thought about getting a second phone? Does that sound a bit like playerish? With the missus style, where really got a second phone on the go.
I feel like I just end up carrying both of them all around at the time.
Yeah. Remember, Jamie Alderton is? He used to do the phone swap Thursdays, did he used to talk about, didn't he? Was that what he said? Where when he'd go to the spa in the gym on a Thursday, he'd take his wife's phone and she would have his phone. But also, for people who have followed Jamie for long enough, if they go all the way back, his shit completely blew up. Do you know what I mean? And this is not me throwing salt. Like, he lived in his gym for a little bit and his marriage very much fell apart, because Jamie was like, this probably still is, damn near autistic in his work ethic, which is very impressive, but comes at a tremendous cost as well. Yes. And he very nearly stretched that elastic band too far and lost the people that he's around. But sometimes that's the answer. And I'm not saying that was the answer for him. I'm from my limited interpretation, I don't know Jamie. I've only spoken to him once. He seems happy. He's got children and wife and all that sort of jazz, and he's a very happy man. But when do you think you should know when to move on from people? And I'm not saying just like emotionally, like intimately, because this is a very personal question, but say like your friends groups, or your watch at work, or the people you hang around with after you work. Do you know what I mean? If they're not going the same direction you're going in, at some point in time, you're going to have to say, you know what, gang, this ain't working for me anymore. But I think that whether it's a pack instinct or just a desire to stay mates. Well, I've known Phil since I was at school. He's my best mate. He was my best man at my wedding. Yeah, but he's a dick and he's a drunk and he's going nowhere. And he doesn't want you to go anywhere either, because he wants you to stay in his little bubble. Yeah. Like, you must have had elements like that in your life because you're so public and because of what you're doing. Have you ever felt, I always say doing stuff like what we do is less crowded. It's not necessarily lonely, but it's definitely less crowded. Like, how much time would you say you spend alone just doing stuff?
It's mad because I was talking to someone about this the other day. So the difference between firefighting, so running into burning buildings, you're around your mates all the time, you're having a laugh, and then online coaching, where I'm sat here for 12 hours a day at my desk, like no one here, having potentially a couple of conversations online, but they're two different worlds. They really are, and it's shocking between them, and there's no comparison.
MSA are supporting us on today's podcast, and I chose to partner with them because I've been wearing this stuff for nearly 20 years, and they are the global leader in development, manufacture, and supply of incredible, safe products that really protect people, not just our communities out there, but also first responders, most importantly, all over the world. Get yourself over to MSA and have a look at it. The high-performance protective clothing for emergency services responders. They also partner with us on the UK Pink Firefighters. That's because we love them. The helmets with the reflective visor, the F1XF, absolutely epic helmet. And not forgetting how they improve firefighter safety through their connectivity in the connected firefighter platform. MSA are always pushing the envelope, and it's a real privilege to be able to continue to grow our partnership together. So whether it's your PPE, your bunker gear, your helmets, your SCBA, your thermal imaging, your Luna, or your portable gas detection, both of us know that this equipment needs to work. It needs to be high quality, reliable, and dependable in the moment. And that's why I use MSA, because they know what's at stake. How do you cope with spending so much time by yourself? Because there is a difference between being alone and being lonely.
It's interesting you say that. I've actually just joined a CrossFit gym, and the reason for doing so is to get more of that social life. Like, obviously, you've got great mates through the station and people in the fire service, but I also want to make sure that I'm having friends on the fire service. There's lots of friends in different groups and different areas, and trying to diversify. So for me, that's a very good way of going to a class 8 a.m. doing a workout, having a bit of a chat, having that social element, so that when I am sat here for 12 hours, I've still done something, rather than my wife coming home and me talking her ear off when she's just ready to relax after a hard day's work.
That's your first bit of like social dieting. When she gets in, this is the first social cookie I'm going to get today. I'm just going to eat the shit out of this. And she's just going to be on receive for the next fucking hour.
Yeah. Just had enough already.
Plus, I think there's an element, I go to a CrossFit gym as well, and I find I train harder. Certainly with some of the heavy cardio sessions, some of the sweat sessions, some of the more functional sessions. Obviously, the weightlifting ones are a bit slow down, barbelly. I get a bit bored of them. I've done that stuff for 20 years, bloody powerlifting, all that jazz. But the 3-2-1 go, those sort of chipper workouts, I absolutely love them. And you just train so much harder when you're around other people. It kind of ignites that healthy competitive element, doesn't it?
Massively. If you're around other people and you think about, I might stop. Like, if you're on your own in the gym at 6 a.m. and you want a bit more rest, you'll have it. But if you're surrounded by a whole group of people, and Sarah to the right of you still doing burpees, and Andrew's doing his step ups, there's no way you're stopping. And I think it comes down
Andrew.
to competitiveness.
I'm going to fucking swallow him.
Yeah.
I am going to absolutely fucking destroy him.
Yeah.
To my own detriment, probably.
Oh, yeah. You're chasing people.
We'll high five afterwards. Yes. It's good.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. You never get nasty with it. And you're only cheating yourself in a CrossFit workout if you're not doing the full reps and you're not doing the full count or anything like that. And you'll get found out. Everybody knows who the person is that's never doing all the stuff. And I love it because I'll point at the machine. I'm such a dick. Like, when I finish a workout and there's someone like 10 years younger than me who should be a lot fitter than me, and I've just finished the calories or whatever, I'll make sure I'm fucking pointing it and he sees it before I leave, because I don't want him thinking like, oh, you didn't do all the calories. Yeah, I did, bitch. Look at that.
But anyway, that comes down to that competitive nature, doesn't it? I think CrossFit brings that. Yeah,
let's be right. He's way better at me all the gymnastic stuff. Like, I can't do a barbell muscle up. I can't get my handstands and go up. So anything like that, he just embarrasses me like a child. We all have our strengths and weaknesses, don't we? But you should feel proud to lean into your strengths, because I always say to people, if you're not going to be your own number one fan, fuck me, how do you expect anybody else to be? If you don't like you, no one's going to like you. Of course they're not. Do you know what I mean? Like, talk to me about that element, because maybe this folds a little bit back into the social media thing as well. Like, what's your opinion of you? Like, talk to me about the identity and the story we tell ourselves about ourselves, and how much of that is a factor.
I think something I've definitely noticed over the last few months is my confidence has grown massively. So a bit of a backstory about fighting Farfit, and the reason I went with fighting Farfit is because at that time I wasn't confident enough to put my name to it. I thought, who's going to want to buy from me? Who's going to look at Phill Matthews' Instagram account and think, yeah, I'll get a program from them? So I didn't have that self belief, and I think a lot of your self belief comes from achieving the things you set out to achieve. And this is why goal setting is so important. If you know you've achieved certain goals, you start to believe in yourself more because you build up this undeniable proof that you are who you say you are, what you want to achieve.
100%. You're stacking it, aren't you?
Yes.
Stacking those layers of paint. It's that authenticity that you don't. That's when people talk about the imposter syndrome, and I'm like, yeah, to an extent, but not if you've done it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like me showing up to do a competition or to host an event, whether it's a lecturing, speaking event or a firefighter challenge event. I'm like, no, I've done it. I've done it. I'm not bullshitting you. Do you know what I mean? But there is a big element that you kind of have to have a little bit of fake it till you make it to start with. I also think, like, especially when we get back to the fitness thing, if you're a really overweight man, you weren't always overweight. You weren't fat as a baby. I mean, you might have been chubby as a baby, but you can, if you choose, to reset your anchor and say, I'm a really fit, healthy bloke who's just got a little bit lost over the last 5 years. But if you tell yourself, I'm a fat piece of shit, then you're always going to be that.
Yes.
You're always going to be that. And you will always go back to that. You might go, oh, I'm getting fit for 6 months, but secretly inside I know I'm fat and I know I'm a loser and I'm always going to be a loser. Then you're always going to be a loser. It's the same people that say, oh, you know, I'm quitting smoking. How long have you been quitting smoking for? Oh, 5 months. Well, if you're counting how long you've been quitting smoking for, chances are you are going to go back to smoking. If yesterday I had a fag and today I haven't had anything to smoke, then I'm not a smoker. People go, bullshit, Peter, I saw you smoke yesterday. And you go, no, that was my past. I am not a smoker now. And that can be that's as true as you want to make it. If I had one this morning and I'm not smoking right now, I'm not a smoker. And people go, I'm not sure I can buy that, Pete. That sounds a bit bullshit. It sounds a bit woo-woo. Sometimes you need get a little bit of woo-woo in there, okay? A little bit of woo-woo can work. And then, because I'm a recovering addict, it's just day on day. I just need to worry about the rest of the day today. Don't inject drugs for the rest of the day today. And then tomorrow, I'll worry about tomorrow. Yeah? But I ain't going to worry about if I'm going to be doing it in July. If I worry too much about July, I'll start injecting drugs tonight. Just got to focus on that next best step. Like, maybe that's a useful segue for us. Talk to me about planning of our weeks and planning of our food intake. And James Smith used to have a good one where he used to talk about weekly intake. I don't know if it was James's, it might have been somebody else. Obviously, he's all calorie deficit kind of guy. How do you think about your workouts? How do you think about rest? How do you think about the food that you eat? Like, are you Goggins, all balls to the wall, all go no quit? You know, if your missus brings a chocolate in the house, you beat her to death. You know, like, how do you work on your weeks and your nutrition and all that jazz?
For me, with my nutrition, it is very much about having higher calories on training days and less calories on non-training days. And I used to be extremely strict with it, coming from a bit of a bodybuilding background. You eat this, you eat chicken and rice 4 times a day. And then I think as time evolves and you understand that you don't have to be as strict with it. Like, you still enjoy yourself, that'll treat your health. It's as long as that still comes within aligns with your goals or your calories. It's about having that balance, isn't it? You've got to be able to enjoy yourself in the process. Otherwise, you will look good, but you will look absolutely miserable, which just it isn't a fulfilling life to lead. So,
no. How do you handle training in terms of rest days? How many rest days do you have a week? What sort of things do you focus on in a balance of cardio versus weightlifting?
At the moment, I tend to be training about 4 or 5 times a week. Obviously, the conversation we had earlier about CrossFit, that's changing slightly because I'm potentially going to be training twice some days where I go to the CrossFit, do a bit of cardio, and then go to the gym and do more strength training. But I tend to do sort of 4 or 5 sessions a week, majority of it being weightlifting and then some steady state cardio. At the minute, I'm just really enjoying intervals. I find long steady state cardio, boring as I think most people do, and intervals is that fast pace.
Sucks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can be on
I
a
love
tread
interval stuff.
doing intervals, just
Yeah.
pushing hard for a minute, minute and a half, I just feel like I can push myself harder. It's almost, it comes back to those lifting weights where you've got 8 reps, 10 reps, push yourself for that time,
Mm-hmm.
then you rest. And I think that's where the enjoyment comes from.
Have you done the Miko's triangle at your CrossFit box yet? Have you had a go at that?
I'm aware that it's the ski, the bike, and the rower, isn't it?
Yeah, get in that, brother. That's loads of fun. I mean, it's only 40 minutes, but it is like 30, 40 second sprint, 20 seconds. I mean, depending how fit you are and depending on what calorie you want to go up to. I've got up to 22s. I've done 22s twice, but there is no break. There is no break at all. Like what I do probably once a week is an 18. So it's 18 calories every minute on the minute, 3 movements, minute break. I can do that really comfy, and that looks like about 40 seconds of work and then 20 seconds break. And I like that. And I think in that interval training, in my personal opinion, not necessarily 40 minutes worth of it, but that sort of interval training is ideal for firefighters. Ideal. Our life is lift and move interval stuff. That's kind of what we do most of the time. And if you're going to do something hard, like in a BA where you're going to be doing it for 30 minutes maximum, probably a little bit less than that. And it will all be lifting and moving and dragging and dropping and working on different planes and staying low and all that sort of jazz. So yeah, I think the world of functional fitness has really aids itself to the world of first responders. I worry about paramedics a lot, because they really don't have any physical testing. And they're obviously doing a lot of lifting and moving of casualties, usually the big, heavy, fat ones, because that's the ones that need help from paramedics. Have you ever thought about branching into other sectors? Do you work with any people from the police or ambulance, or do you get many interested clients from people there?
I work with a few people for the ambulance service, but it tends to be people that want to join the fire service or police officers that want to get into the fire service, obviously coming over to the better job. I don't tend to focus on firefighting because purely that's what I know, that's what I understand now. I understand we're all going to face similar struggles, but in the fire service, you tend to be able to sort of sit and eat a bit more with tea breaks, with a downtime, or whereas ambulance and police don't get that opportunity. It's very different demands, aren't they?
I think they'll really struggle recruiting police officers now. Police officers especially, I have a tremendous amount of respect for them, but I don't know what the future of that job is.
It's so demanding.
I don't know how they're going to get people into it. It's so demanding. They never get appropriate sleep. They obviously don't get appropriate pay. Pretty much no first responders do. And it's an expectation of part of their job that someone might attack you. We're fitter than them in as a general measure. It's my words, not yours. But generally, we are fitter than police officers. We certainly have a high level of fitness testing. But we're not going to get attacked. It's not part of our job that we need to wrestle with someone ever. And I just really worry about them. I think we're setting them up to fail. I would love to see. I'd love to see a lot more love from the public for the police, but I'd love to see a lot more love from the government for first responders in general, but certainly police and ambulance and all that sort of stuff. And I know people point the finger at firefighters and go, "Oh, you still get beds at night and all this sort of stuff." Yes, and so should you.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So should you. Just because the government or whoever, just because mum and dad don't treat the ambulance and the police very well, doesn't mean they should also treat the fire service badly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think we should be throwing our beds out because other people aren't getting appropriate rest either.
Oh, massive. It should be the other way around.
That's like a race to the bottom.
Yeah, we should be giving them beds.
There's so much research, and you'll have probably read half of it yourself, like all-cause mortality is raised, cases of cancer is raised through poor sleep, through shift work studies. Terrible for you. I suppose on that note, I'd ask you as well, do you think firefighting's a job for life?
Oh, I think...
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I think maybe...
I'm not sure it is.
I'm not sure it is anymore. I think certainly the operational role of a firefighter, is that a role for life? Probably not. Now, I can only speak from personal experience, what I've witnessed now. 10, 20 years ago when he retired at 50, yes, certainly, I think people could do it. I still believe they struggled. I've spoken to firefighters now who are retired in late 40s. They really started to struggle with the late night get-ups or the early morning get-ups and stuff. But Now retirement at 65, like I don't want to be a firefighter at 65, and do I want a firefighter rescuing me at 65? Probably not.
That's the two sides of the coin. Like for me or you, and let's get a reality check. Neither of us are perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. You know, I've took a lot of drugs in my life when I was younger. I think I'm going to have my own set of challenges to face as I get older. I'm facing challenges already, you know, physically, and things have snapped and fallen off and held together with optimism and all that sort of jazz. But don't drink. You know, I haven't drank since I was 18. I exercise quite a lot. I'm very conscious about what I eat. Very, very serious about the sleep that I get. Very, very, very serious about the types of things that I put in my body now, even just so far as the types of gluten and not, you know, silly little shit for some people. You know, I'm the ice bath moron. I'm trying hard to do the things that will help stack the deck in my favor. And I'm not sure I will want to be doing it when I'm 60, 65. And I'm not saying I'll just clarify, I'm not saying I'm great at all. I think I will struggle. You know, I look at the people in their mid-20s, 10 years younger than me, and they look like they're struggling already. They're burning the candle at both ends. And, you know, I think they're not going to make it into their mid-40s. I don't know what that looks like. I think we're speeding towards a little bit of a cliff with that one. And, you know, the thing is, I was about to say the overlords have just got their hand on in front of their eyes, accelerating towards a cliff. I don't think that's the case. But also, they're not going to be here.
No.
I'm not saying they don't care, but that's someone else's problem. You know? Same way with like our pensions. Someone's going to go after our pensions another 10 times before we get anywhere near them.
Massively. Especially now with it, like you say.
Public sector pension.
Being 65 anyway, like the pension will change 10 times in my lifetime.
It'll be 70 before I get to it.
Oh, yeah. I think the same. You know? I do think so. And
because we're living longer.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't set it up the right way. People are cashing their pensions at 55 and living for another 30 years. People assumed they'd be dead when they were 65. You know, and there's the other sad reality. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes firefighters leave the job and they're dead in the next 2 or 3 years because they didn't look after themselves. I was talking to someone the other day about your fitness pension. Like, this might be a cool thing to discuss for a minute. Talk to me about things that you think are the best places to spend our time dollars, our sort of allocated amount of time, to set ourselves up for our fitness pension. Because we had Alan Smith on the podcast, 65 years of age, still all going all around the world doing these firefighter challenge competitions. Like, for people that are in those last stages of their career, I know you work with a lot of people coming into the job, but I'm sure you work with some older firefighters as well. What's some advice for them around how they can, you know, prioritize certain elements of training? I'm sure they don't all need to be doing power cleans and box jumps. You know, where should they be spending their time?
I think they should still try and get as strong as possible. I think it's so important when you're younger to build as much strength as possible. As you start to get in your 30s and 40s, it gets harder. We see changes in hormones, we see changes in sort of body mass and things like that. Like, if you realise that at 50 you've not got the strength or fitness required, whether that's for the job or everyday life, like, it's going to be so much harder to try and get back up to that level. Whereas if you built it in your 20s and 30s, you're on sort of a winning streak, because
you need to build a cushion almost, don't you?
Yes, massively.
You need to build that buffer, because you're just going to keep losing it as you get older, especially like you say, as your testosterone drops off and it just gets harder to hold muscle.
Yeah, massively. And one of the things that I noticed at a very young age, I used to do a paper round, and I used to notice that the fittest older people were those with dogs, because they were walking their dog every morning at 6 a.m. And I noticed very early it was sort of that big correlation between fitness and movement. And then I obviously looked at sort of my grandma who didn't move, the deterioration that came from that. But it's a different generation where they didn't go to gyms, they didn't lift weights as enjoyment or hobbies, and we've got better understanding.
Gyms are the new pubs, aren't they?
Oh, massively.
Because our dads used to go down the pubs. Or maybe they had a five-a-side club they went to once a week. My dad played a lot of field hockey. But now, gyms are the new pubs, aren't they?
Yeah, and coffee shops. I think pubs are dying, and coffee shops are just popping up everywhere, aren't they? But it's nice to see that healthier lifestyle. Definitely.
I think someone said to me the other day, like, you don't stop moving because you get old because you stop moving. And I thought, that's a nice little clever word game. I'm going to steal that one. I want to be respectful of your time, and I want to be respectful of my family's time as well, because I know they're back home now. I know I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, but I thought it might be a nice fun thing to do. We can cut it out if you don't like it. But desert island exercises.
Okay.
If you had 10 exercises to do for the rest of your life, you're only allowed 10 exercises.
10 exercises.
What 10 exercises would they be? Give yourself a second to think about it, unless you're confident to go off the cuff. But you're only allowed to do these 10 for the rest of your life. Equipment is not an object. There's a £1 billion budget to get you a swimming pool or any kind of kit you want on this desert island, but you're only allowed to pick 10 exercises for the rest of your life. It is beyond a privilege to be able to bring the Firefighters podcast to you, and we are so grateful for every single person that supports, listens, shares, and follows our journey. But here's the honest truth. It takes a colossal amount of time and work to keep the podcast going. And to help us keep doing it, create more, reach more guests internationally, and make the podcast sustainable, we're asking for you to help. And to do this, we've set up a Patreon page. Now, by joining this, you'll not only support the future of the podcast, but also gain access to exclusive benefits. Now, if you've ever wanted to meet a member of the podcast, buy us a beer, buy us a coffee, and you think anything you've ever listened to on the podcast has been worth £3, that's basically what we're asking you for. By joining our Patreon community, you will get access to every single full episode archive we have ever made. Now, hundreds and hundreds of key documents that we've got in there on fire behavior, firefighter health, cancer risks, incident debriefs, and so much more. A growing collection of valuable resources to help you learn and grow. Your support in whatever way, dropping it in the WhatsApp group, sharing it on the local newsletter, whatever it is, it's incredibly valuable, and we really do support it, and we need it to make it a long-lasting resource, that legacy resource we always talk about for first responders, firefighters, and everybody everywhere who's ever been interested in joining the fire service. Now, if you're already supporting something, as many people do, it's totally cool. You can still access the podcast for free, and you'll always be able to access all the new episodes for free, but we're asking for your help to make this sustainable. And we want to keep growing, we want to keep sharing the insights, and we want to keep showcasing the incredible work happening in our community and our sector. So if you feel like you want to join the Patreon crew and help us make this possible, head to patreon.com/TFFPC or check the link in any episode podcast notes.
Number one would have to be squat. As much as it's sort of...
What type of squat?
Just a barbell back squat, just a nice and simple barbell back squat, lifting nice and heavy. Like, obviously, it's huge benefits for the lower body and leg strength. There's huge correlation between leg strength and all-cause mortality and living longer. But it's just one of those exercises that works so many muscles and so many benefits, even for the cardiovascular system.
Okay, squat.
Number two would be purely enjoyment, and that would be incline dumbbell bench press. There's nothing better than lifting heavy weights on that exercise.
I don't do any barbell bench press now, incline or flat. It's all dumbbell.
Yeah.
I think it's just so much better for your shoulders as well, to be honest with you. I tore my whole pec off. I mean, I was taking a lot of drugs at the time, but I think the way a bench press is set up, I don't think it's a good way for you to move your body. I've not read a great deal about it, but yeah, anyway, dumbbells all day long.
Yeah,
so
you're
incline
forced
dumbbell bench press.
Positions, aren't you? You're forced to hold the bar, whereas dumbbells, you can obviously rotate or internally change your position. Next, I'd have to go with just overhead pressing. It's just trying to get a balance.
Okay.
I'm obviously thinking if we've got 10 exercises, then I want to be nice and balanced across the
What overhead
body.
press are you having? Barbell, dumbbell, single arm, double arm? What are you going for?
I think
Military?
Seated dumbbell with that stability.
Seated dumbbell.
Dumbbell shoulder press. I'm getting a few issues with my shoulder at the minute, and again, like we said with the dumbbell incline press, I'm able to bring them in a little bit and just help with that movement and maintain it.
Okay, that's 3.
That's 3. Pulling, some pull-ups.
Pull-ups?
Yeah.
Okay.
Match up with a horizontal pressing, do some horizontal pulling.
I hate pull-ups.
Yeah.
Absolutely hate pull-ups.
Why do you hate
I've
them?
got an issue with my left forearm. Don't know what it is, but it screams at me when I do pull-ups now. I've only had it for like the last 7 months. I didn't used to hate pull-ups. I've not always hated pull-ups. But don't know what it is that's triggered in there. I was having some acupuncture in my forearm the other day for it because it absolutely screams. And I'm worried it's going to start affecting my rowing because I'm really good at rowing. But I've just stopped doing pull-ups altogether for the time being until I can work it out. But it's a fantastic movement. It is an absolutely fantastic movement. You can't take it away from it. Okay, we're nearly halfway through. We've got squats, we've got incline dumbbell, we've got overhead press with our seated dumbbells, and then we've got pull-ups. What are we having next?
Well, like an inverted row. I think an inverted row is so simple. Horizontal,
Okay.
working your back muscles, and it's just you can do it literally anywhere. I really like that movement.
Barbell again.
Yeah, with a barbell, just changing your grips.
Okay. Okay. We've got no types of cardio in at the moment, which is okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. There's nothing body weight in there. Oh, no, sorry, we've got pull-ups. Pull-ups are body weight. What we having at number 6?
Number 6 is, would you consider walking an exercise?
No, you can have that
No.
for free.
Okay. Fine.
Walk-ins are taken. But it's a fair shout. Otherwise, I was going to be a dick and not let you have it. Yes, definitely walk in. Would you have a target you'll be trying to hit a day? Is there a time amount that you want to walk for? Or how do you know what degree of walking is good enough for you?
Me personally, I go for 10,000 steps. Now, it's just not just because it's a magic number, but it kind of that's around sort of my average anyway. So I know if I drop below that, I obviously haven't moved as much that day. And for me, it's just a nice time to clear my head. I don't get enjoyment out of something like running. I do walking because running ultimately is hard, and most of the time I'm thinking I don't want to do this.
Running sucks. It just hurts my knees as well.
Yeah.
Hurts my knees. Not up for it. I would rather do on any kind of machine all day long. On a row, on a bike, on a ski, on an echo, anything like that. But running, no.
Yeah.
Just that impact on my joints. Don't think it's good for me. For some people, great. But I'm too heavy for it. I'm not interested. I've been doing some of the... I went and did a hybrid games the other day, and I've just signed up for Deadly Dozen as well.
Nice.
Deadly Dozen is 400 metre runs. Hybrid games was obviously 600 metre runs. And then I've done a few Hyroxes, but they're a kilometre each round. That's a bit much.
It's a lot of running, isn't it?
I don't like it. And I know for your ultramarathon runners, they're like, pussy. I'm like, no. Kilometres, too far for me. Don't enjoy it.
You did it
I guess,
as well,
especially
didn't
when
you?
you're up six. Yeah, I did it in pink fire kit with a BA set on our back
Yeah,
as well.
that's brave.
Well, that was an excuse to go a bit slower as well, because I'm never going to move fast in fire kit.
No, not with a BA set on.
Anyway, sorry. So we're up to 5. We're halfway there. What are we having next?
5, ski erg. Love using the ski erg and intervals, and you combine it with all those other exercises we've done for some sort of circuit and Metcon. It's so versatile.
Mm-hmm. If you punch it too hard, I hurt my elbows over time. I have to get like a 7 on the dampener, and then I can get up to around a 2200 per whatever it says on it, 2200 something
Rotation.
the way that you measure the wattage and the output. Yeah, that's about the sweet spot for me. But if I'd rank it up to like a 10, I actually don't go as fast. It just starts to hurt my elbow. There's almost too much resistance on it. But maybe I'm just being
exactly the same.
But yeah, I love skis.
I love to have it about 7 or 8 and just find that nice resistance. Otherwise, there's too much resistance.
No need for a
top.
10.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no need for a 10.
No one needs it.
Yeah, and often when I have had it, I broke one of them once. Not because I'm really strong. I think it was a bit of an old machine as well. But you start trying to crank too hard on a 10, you just damage it, I think. Whereas on a rower, you could maybe go up to it. But even on a rower, I only go up to about 8 or 9. 8 really on a rower for me. But anyway, ski. Awesome. Love that. Rounds, intervals, lengths of time. Do you like doing anything specific on it?
I like doing intervals on it, sort of looking for about a minute, maybe doing sort of 15 calories, sort of off about 40 seconds, having a bit of a break before moving on to a different exercise. That's one of my favourite ways to do it.
I've been doing 200 metre sprints on it recently. Yeah. Really enjoy them. Really, really enjoy them. Yeah. 200 metre sprint, and have 2 minutes rest. It's a nice distance. You can really... It's right at the edge of sprinting limit because I'm not really breathing much whilst I'm doing it. I'm really going balls to the wall. But 200 meters is quite nice. Everything I'm kind of doing at the minute is geared-ish around the Firefighter Challenge style stuff. So I'm trying to do 1 to 2 minutes of really hard work. And then every now and again I'm doing some slower state cardio, which is like the 45-minute style CrossFit classes. But playing into those nice sprint things. Okay, ski ergs, that's number 6. I keep interrupting, I'm terrible, sorry.
For elevated reverse lunge.
Oh God, elevated reverse lunge.
For elevated, so stood on a plate, stood on a 20 kilo, and then you're just lunging backwards with a barbell on your back. And that I just find, again, for total leg development, for balance, for just movement in general, very dynamic movement. I feel like a lot of what I've given you so far is very sort of static movements. Barbell moving in one plane, so it's a little bit different and brings so many more elements into it.
The only reason I wouldn't use dumbbells instead of a barbell, I find barbell on the back in a lunge position can be a little bit dangerous.
You reckon?
If you're not very confident with the movement. Yeah, because you can just drop dumbbells.
Yeah.
if I'm doing a lunge with a barbell, I can't really dump that bar backwards or forwards. You know what I'm saying? Just for people that are less confident, do you have a reason why you don't like? I'm not saying barbell's wrong, but
if I was using the same weight with dumbbells, I'd half the time trying to hold on to the dumbbells, or my traps would be hurting, or I'd be off balance. I just find I just have so much more grounding with that barbell and ability to sort of move motion stable.
Fair play. 3 left.
3 left. Calf raises. Coming from a bodybuilding background.
Oh, mate, raises. I could show you my calves. Yeah. I have got some little baby cows in there. Seriously, I did. But I think a lot of calves is genetics.
Oh, massively. And how you
People
walk.
Always said, Pete, you got great calves. And I'm like, I've done a lot of work on them. But my dad's got great calves as well, and he never went in the gym, So I think sometimes it is just genetics with your calves. Yeah. But I love a calf raise. Seated, standing, any preference?
I like standing. Standing, I'm really enjoying at the moment. Nice deep stretch, controlled movements, no bouncing.
I do slow. I go fast on the concentric, slow on the eccentric, and then sometimes I'll skip in between rounds of calves, just as that extra little bit of fast twitch. You know what I mean? So I'll throw that in between it, and then I'll go into slower movements back on the extensions.
I've got a horrendous calf workout for you.
Go on.
60 reps, 60 seconds rest, 50 reps, 50 seconds reps, all the way down to 10. Your calves are just screaming by the end of it.
Nice.
It's like a reverse ladder.
I love stuff like that. I think with calves, abs, and forearms, it's volume. You've got to put volume because calves are working all day long. You're always walking around. Your calves are always working. Your biceps never do anything. No. Your chest and your pecs never do anything. So you do a little bit of work on them and they'll blow up. But your calves, you've got to really kick the shit out of them because they'll just recover so easily. So I agree with you. Volume on the calves, definitely.
Where are we up to?
Last 2, you've got 9 and 10 to go.
9 and 10.
So I'll run you down. You've got rear barbell squat. You've got an incline dumbbell. You've got an overhead barbell, which is a seated dumbbell press. You've got pull-ups. You've got inverted row, which is the barbell. Ski erg is our one piece of machinery we've got in there. We've got the elevated barbell rear lunge, and then we've got calf raises, and you've got 2 left.
Definitely running. If I'm on a desert island, although I do find running a little bit of a struggle, it would just be great to sort of be running along those beaches, just enjoying yourself and see a bit of the world. I think
you've got no isolation on bis or tris yet, which is fine. Because a lot of that is bodybuilder, Gucci, mantelpiece movements. You've not done anything direct to the core. I mean, obviously, we would argue the inverted row barbell movements, the squats, all of these heavily engage your core if you're doing them correctly.
Yeah.
But, I used to train core a lot, and I don't train core at all anymore, and I've still got the old 6-pack and all that sort of jazz. Do you think it's something you even need to train directly?
Obviously, we know that to see your core, to see your abs, you obviously need to have a certain level of body fat. Now, if you train your abs hard, you train your core more, they're going to be a lot more prominent for a lot higher body fat. And when you do get leaner, they're going to look a lot better. But again, I don't tend to do a massive amount of direct core work because I like to prioritize bigger lifts. And I do find that a lot of heavy barbell movements, a lot of bracing, a lot of dynamic movements is enough for me to work the core.
So what are you making your last one?
I think dips.
Dips are hard.
Yeah, they are hard.
When I tore my pec off, I obviously didn't do any dips or any chest work for ages and ages and ages. And I prefer doing a lot higher volume with dips. When I see people dipping with masses of plates and stuff like that, it scares me. Yeah. I'm like, I don't think we need to be doing that. I don't think you're in a I know people will say, oh, you can just put your feet down and stand up. I don't think you need to do that. I think you're going to make an issue with your elbow. I don't think this is necessary. I think dips should, for me personally, be predominantly a bodyweight movement. I'll go all the way up to 15, 20 reps, and then I'd rather have shorter breaks and smoke the triceps. Like if I'm going to go heavy, I'll do a narrow bench press or I'll do a push down of some form. But heavy, and I apologize if you've probably got a video somewhere of you doing heavy plated dips. I don't know, but personally for me, they just scare me. My arms respond quite well to volume rather than weight.
Yeah, it's just personally something about heavy weighted dips. There's nothing better than putting a weight belt on with a couple of plates that are clanging and doing some heavy dips. It just It's just enjoyment.
Just be careful.
Yeah.
I think your elbows for me, I'm like, oh, once you start getting issue with the elbows, it's a ball ache. And especially I had a rotator cuff issue on my left shoulder, torn pec on my right hand side. I'm like,
Yeah, you don't want to be doing dips.
I don't need to.
No.
I don't need to
Absolutely
do
not.
tips. You know, just do it so I enjoy it. And then if someone says, "Oh, how many plates can you do?" None. You win.
Yeah.
I lose. That's fine. I don't need to prove that one. You're okay. Awesome. Well, look, brother, I want to be respectful of your time. We've been going for like nearly an hour and a half already, so time just races by. Where can people find you? Where's the best place if people want to stay in contact with you? We'll put some links underneath here for people to get some more information. But for people that have not come across you before, where's the best place to find you?
Instagram's probably the best place to find me. I'm a lot more responsive on there. I'm on there a lot more often, and that's where the majority of my content goes. And that's at Fighting Fire Fit.
Beautiful. Phill, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Send my love to the family. I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much. Great to have me on. Thank you.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Hope you took a lot away from that episode. We started the Firefighters podcast to develop, inspire, connect, motivate, represent, and most importantly, celebrate the world of incredible emergency services operators and the wider sector through this series of wide-ranging conversations. We really love creating this podcast and bringing it to so many people. Did you know you can also find these on YouTube? We do a lot of video podcasts now. You can head over to our YouTube page and follow, subscribe there. And as a final ask from us, whatever platform you're on, please rate the podcast. It really helps us as a key performance indicator to reach more and more people. I've been your host, Pete Wakefield. This has been the Firefighters podcast. And wherever you are in the world, please stay safe, be happy, live with intention, and where possible, please remember and support your firefighters and first responders. I'll see you next time.